Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Rich Perez welcoming you back into another weekly rundown. Joining with me as always, my brother from another mod, homie all the way from the 305, Kayson Davis. How you doing, Kay?
I'm doing great this week. How was your week, brother?
It's doing good, man. It's been good. It's Pop's birthday on Monday, so shout out to Pops, happy birthday, and shout out to everybody that wish Pops a happy birthday, man.
Shout out to Uncle Tom, man. I actually talked to him the other day. I don't know if he told you.
Nah, he didn't. I gotta give him a call after this is over. He did.
Uh,
He
he,
did tell me he was with your pops though,
yeah,
and I
they
think
called
last
me.
time. Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
they're all together. They called me,
That's awesome.
so I talked to him the other day. Shout out Uncle Tom.
Yeah. Lot to do. Lot to do this week, man. What we're gonna do is if you guys didn't see the promo for this week, we're gonna get into some Jets talk because man, the Jets had themselves a crazy week. We'll talk a bit about the Giants and their prospects on the quarterback situation. Knicks T-Wolves, last time we were here, Stat was on here with us. We had some good Knicks talk. And the Knicks T-Wolves faced off in a preseason game. We'll get into some things that went on in that game, touch on some Miami Heat stuff. Is it time to hit the panic button in Philly for the Sixers? JB Bickerstaff introduced a new team rule. And then we want to hear from you guys. We'll end the show with a little bit of baseball. So, what a week for the Jets, man. To start things off, they fired head coach Robert Saleh. They decided to keep the offensive coordinator title on Nathaniel Hackett, but relinquished him of his play calling duties. Then they go on Monday Night Football after all of this, play a heck of a game against the Buffalo Bills, a horrendously called game, I might add. It was like Oprah, you get a flag, you get a flag, you get a flag. So don't know what was up with that. They lose a close one, although Aaron Rodgers did turn back the clock. Don't know if you guys saw that Hail Mary pass he threw. That was Chef's Kiss is beautiful. But they end up losing the game. And the next day, they traded for Devontae Adams. So it's been a whirlwind in Jets land. They hate when I do the name drops, but I'm gonna do it anyway. My homie Mosby. Usually, like when there's a Jets loss, he'll kind of post something funny about how he's out, but he's back in, just like Godfather 3. So when I look at what the Jets did, I like what I saw from Rodgers. I think that the offensive line still needs to play better. This game's all about the trenches. But trading for Devontae Adams does change things up. The play calling was a little nicer, not perfect. But again, you got Aaron Rodgers back there. He's still showing that he can do the things that he does. And you're going to move Garrett Wilson into the slot now. Obviously, Devontae Adams is your number one wide receiver there. It opens things up for the offense. Do I think the Jets are Super Bowl contenders at this point in time? I do not, because there's just certain things I don't trust with the Jets right now. Do I think this is a playoff team? We'll find out. I think that the Jets certainly have a good core together right now and championship pedigree with the guys that they've brought in to be able to make the playoffs and do something in the postseason. If I was a betting man, gun to my head, I would tell you the Jets are going to be a postseason team. And I think him, Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers haven't played together in a couple of years, but that should pick back up. I heard they're living together. They were just on Pat McAfee
Ugh.
together the same day as a trade. So we'll see what happens there. But they've got weapons. This is a Super Bowl caliber roster, man. What do you think, Kay?
Yeah, I think obviously things haven't started the way they wanted it to, but we kind of expected them to maybe be obviously better than what they've been. But with Aaron Rodgers and the players that they had over there, we were kind of thinking they might be in that play, definitely a playoff team, but Super Bowl contention. So obviously things haven't worked out to start the season, but trading for Devontae Adams, someone who has chemistry with Aaron Rodgers and things like that, I think helps them. Obviously, like you said, they still have to shore up their offensive line. So I think they're I don't want to say there was high expectations for them coming in, but obviously they haven't lived up to what was there. Right now, I don't think they're a playoff. They're not a playoff team, but they have the talent to be. So I think I like the move. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers want to get someone he's comfortable with. But like I said last week, I still think some time. Obviously, in football, you don't have as much time to kind of get things together. But you maybe not time to hit the panic button. But I think another loss or two is time to hit the panic button.
Well, it's going to be interesting coming into this week. They're on Sunday Night Football. They're going to be playing against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Rumor is that the Steelers could be going back to Russell Wilson, or not back, but could be going to Russell Wilson. So there's an opportunity there for the Jets. You know, this is going to be Russell Wilson's first time starting. Justin Fields just went 4-2 as the Steelers starter. A lot of people don't agree with that. Do you think the rushing attack is going to be the same with Wilson behind center? Also, what we saw with him in Denver is he led the league in 4 sacks. You know, he kind of just was taking unnecessary sacks in that pocket. Is that going to be something that disrupts what the Steelers want to do as far as their offense goes? I mean, you could make the argument that the passing game will be a bit better with Russell Wilson there. I personally don't agree with it. But I mean, this is an opportunity for the Jets to really get something going, and it's prime time. If you're NBC, you got to be loving what's going on right now. This Mike Tomlin saying that they might be going to Russell Wilson, and then the Jets trade for Devontae Adams. Like yeah. Tuesday was a day. Tuesday was a big day.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Obviously, the Steelers have some. They're 4-2, but they have some things they're still trying to work out. So I think hopefully the Jets are thinking we can come in there with a team who kind of doesn't necessarily know who their quarterback is at the moment and maybe try to steal one. So uh, sometimes what you need is just to run into another team that's doing bad, kind of like the Bengals just did with the Giants. So
We were gonna get into that one,
so
but
sometimes you kind of need something to just get you going.
yeah, man. I mean, but kudos to the Jets. They found a way to get a bunch of news stories, and then each one made us forget about the other one. Like coming into this, you're thinking, all right, we're gonna talk about that they really just fired a head coach that they probably should have fired in the offseason, in the middle of the season. This is football. You don't usually get the sparks from head coaching changes in season like you would in baseball or basketball. But we'll see, man. Like I said, they the talent's there. You've got Rodgers there, the pedigree's there, and lot to do in Jets land, man. So it's definitely one to look forward to. They've got us all watching again. Just it is what it is. Just when you think you're out, they pull you back in.
Yep,
The
that's New
the
York for you.
Giants, for sure. The Giants lose a heartbreaker for Giants fans on Sunday night. Okay, you just alluded to it. Bengals taking advantage of things. You know what I've seen from the Giants this year? What I've seen from the Giants is that they are a team outside of week one that is well coached, very solid defense, leads the NFL in sacks right now. Kayvon Thibodeau is going to be out for an extended period of time. So they plug Azeez Ojulari back into the defensive line, who had lost his starting job to Brian Burns, with Burns getting traded over there. In one game, Azeez Ojulari had more sacks than Kayvon Thibodeau has had all season, right? He's just more of a pure pass rusher, not an overall better player, but more of a pure pass rusher. So the defense did everything that they could do to keep you in that game. And what this season so far reminds me of with the Giants is this is pretty much the 2022 team all over again. The only difference is there's no Saquon Barkley and they're not winning any games. But the formula for 2022 was that you had a solid defense who was going to do all the right things, keep you in games, and then do just enough to squeak by on offense. They're doing everything except doing enough to squeak by on offense. Neighbors had the concussion. He was out the last 2 weeks. Insert Slayton back in as the number one wide receiver, and they're kind of just force feeding Slayton. But the question remains right now, are the Giants being capped by quarterback play? A lot of people were coming in saying Daniel Jones is playing solid football. To that I say, let's relax a second. We're not going to praise the guy for doing just enough. He's playing good. They're not winning because of him. He's not playing great. Let's see what he does on prime time when the lights are on him, which he historically has not done well with. And what did he do? Kind of laid a stinker. The biggest thing to me, I don't know if you were watching, Kay. They're in the red zone. And then you've got former Giant BJ Hill coming at you in your face. The pocket's collapsed. Why don't you throw the ball away? He throws it right up the middle for an easy pick. That just can't happen. And that's game-changing stuff right there. I feel like the Giants have everything in place. The overall team looks solid. When you watch them play, they compete, but you have to have a quarterback in this league. And the Giants don't really have a quarterback right now.
Yeah, I think this is a couple years discussion now. I think just New York fans in general, there's the highs and lows of the Daniel Jones roller coaster has been something. I think we all I don't want to say we all, but some people see the talent that could be there. Obviously, he's good on his feet. He can run a little bit. Not a great thrower, but not a terrible thrower. Could probably be a little better. But I think this quarterback situation has been something that's been ongoing, and I think a lot of us thought that maybe they should have switched over a little while ago, but we thought bringing in Dable that he can kind of get the best out of him. So like we've been saying for a few weeks, I think this trial run is coming to an end. This wasn't really their guy, but they gave him a shot. And you think you bring, like I said, you bring a quarterback coach in there, you try to see if you can make this quarterback into something, and if it doesn't work out, then you kind of move forward. I think again they need to clear some money on the caps anyway. So I think after this it's a real reboot and they can kind of go in the direction they want to go.
Everything that you described of Daniel Jones is what you would describe of a backup quarterback. He's good. He's not great. He does just enough. He can do these things, but for my Brian Dable naysayers, and I'd love for you guys to come in the chat if you're here. Name me a coach who's won with a backup quarterback, because that's essentially what we're watching. Is the Giants trotting out a backup quarterback? No offense, and I mean they can't really make a change because they don't have a better option right now. He gives you the best option to win. Now, big news coming out early today, really last night, but early today it was made official. One of their better players, best offensive lineman, Andrew Thomas, is out for the year. So Daniel Jones stats when Andrew Thomas is out, not that great. So if you're a fan of the tank, that could be good. I also think, this is Eagles week. Saquon Barkley coming back to MetLife Stadium for the first time since he left to go to Philly. The Eagles aren't a well-coached team either. So this is going to continue to be a roller coaster. It's a winnable game, but let's see what happens. I would coming into this Sunday, I expect this to be a contested game because Nick Sirianni's a dead man walking. And the Giants have their own issues. So this is going to be two teams with issues going at it. I mean, if we're going off of last year, the Eagles needed that game at the end of the season for seeding purposes, and the Giants outright beat them. So I feel like this is a good shot for the Giants to do that again, but we'll see.
And I think the Giants could have some motivation. Obviously, Saquon left. There was a little bad blood between him and a few people after he left. Obviously, he went to their rivals, went to the Eagles straight down the street. So there could be some motivation for them. But kind of like I just said with the Bengals, sometimes just a hurting team is kind of just what the doctor ordered to kind of try to maybe get you back on track. So when you can't seem to get a rhythm, sometimes you need someone you can kind of get off on a little bit to kind of get your mojo going. So obviously the Bengals haven't started the season off great. We'll see how their season turns out, but I can see both sides. I can see the Giants motivated to come in here. Obviously, a winnable game last week, but also going up against someone who decided to leave you guys and having that motivation to try to go after him. But again, I can also see the Eagles being like, trying to get our mojo back, and this is the type of team maybe you can get that on.
Did you see him say that he doesn't expect to get booed?
Uh, I could,
Come on,
I
man.
didn't like in his. I mean, I can see why he says that.
He
He,
joined the Eagles.
but he didn't like say, "Hey, I want to leave you guys and join the Eagles." He was kind of pushed out. And if you're gonna push me out, don't be mad where I go.
I think it was a tale of like they could have got something done, and ultimately, I think history will go to show that this was in the best interest of the franchise. Eagles kind of got in the way of them both sides getting something done. I think like they both felt there was just too much damages, whatever, and it was kind of over after that.
Yeah, but I can see where he says like, don't be mad at me because the organization decided to do what's best for them. Then at that point, I have to do what's best for me. So I think in his heart of hearts, he feels like if you really look at it, you gotta respect that. So they're gonna do what's best for them. I'm gonna do what's best for me, but don't be mad at me for doing what's best for me when no one's booing the GM for letting me go.
You see what you're doing right now is you're making a rational thought. But what the case is going to be is that these are Giants fans and they hate the Eagles. It's like for me as a Giants fan, it's my hate goes Cowboys number one, Eagles number two, and it's very close. So I don't think Giants fans ever cared about like what the semantics were and what how it happened. I think that they're just observing the fact that you joined the hated Eagles and it feels like a slap in the face. So I don't know, Saquon. I don't know if you're trolling, but I
Or,
expect the boo birds to be flying on Sunday when you walk out.
but then in that case, I wouldn't take the booze too personal. It's less about him and more about just the hate for the Eagles.
Yeah, yeah. I did. Everybody felt a little slapped in the face and was like, he's signing with the Eagles.
Uh, I mean, yeah, but I wouldn't take it personal if I was him. It's more of an Eagles Giants hate than we hate you type of thing.
Could be, could be. Um, let's go ahead and get into a quick break to go and address some things. You guys don't stick around. We'll be back in about 1 minute. All right, everybody, and welcome back into the show. Sorry for that. Let's go ahead and move on to the Knicks talk. Now, shout out to our guy Stat. We had him on last show. Had some really good nuggets. If you guys didn't see that interview, it's up now. Go ahead and check it out. And we discussed the Karl Anthony Towns trade with the Minnesota Timberwolves. We had mixed reactions to it with people not wanting Cat because of how they feel about Cat historically, their love for guys like Dante DiVincenzo, whatever. We finally got to see the matchup on or last Sunday between in preseason between the Timberwolves and the Knicks. And boy, was it a doozy. Ended up being 115, 110 Knicks. Karl Anthony Towns played good. What we did see was Dante DiVincenzo just, ball out, which isn't a shock. You expect that, right? And then during the game, he's on the free throw line. And Kay, go ahead and let him know what was going on there. What did we see?
Uh, I guess apparently he was talking to Tibbs. I guess some audio had came out. I don't know if he was joking with Tibbs or whatever the case may be, but obviously Jalen Brunson's dad is on the sideline. It seems like he took that a little personal, addressed some of that on the at the end of the game, and I did see Dante say I was talking to Tibbs, but he told them this is what happens when you let him run the team. Now, who is him? Maybe you say letting Jalen Brunson's dad. It wasn't Rick Brunson run the team, but he was saying this is what happens. I can finish. This is what happens when you let him run the team. So, obviously, I don't know if it was a joke how things ended up going, but some people didn't take that lightly. He was showing them that hey, I could ball. You should have. I don't know if there was like an inside joke last year or something. 'Cause I think I seen a report saying that like I guess when he was on the team's tip told him he wasn't a good finisher. So he finished the and one layup and he said, "Hey, listen, I can finish." And this is what happens when you let him run the team. So who knows?
We saw the audio of him saying that, yeah, saying he's talking to Tibbs. The rumors coming into this game with the whole trade thing too was that he might have not been happy with his role. He cleared that up in his post game press conference, saying that that just wasn't true. It was a little odd to see because you look at the history with these guys, you know that they have a good relationship, and if like these guys were college teammates, you would expect that he would have a good relationship with Rick Brunson. Rick Brunson said he was going to let it slide, said a couple other things. And that's really what kind of took over the game, man. And if you guys are in here, go ahead and throw in your questions. What you guys think of that? Um, to get aside from that though, okay, they look good. They do look good.
The Knicks.
Yeah.
Uh, what I've learned in my time watching basketball is you can't take preseason too seriously. Cat looked good. I think he had like 35 and like 16 or something. So he's fitting well. But I wouldn't take too much into preseason basketball. Randall didn't play, so it's hard to judge the Timberwolves on like what they'll really look like. But I think to your point though, I think you do see glimpses of what they could look like. The defense is there. You see kind of what it would look like with OG and Miles and those. I mean Michael and those type of guys out there. You see their defense. You've seen I've seen like steals and fast and blocks leading to fast breaks and different things like that. So you see it. I see the glimpses, and I think that's going to be there regardless. So I think they do look good, but obviously the regular season is going to be a different beast
It's gonna be a different beast, and it kicks off next week. Are we ready?
against Boston. Does it? Season starts Tuesday. Jesus. All right. I think it's Tuesday, and they're in Boston for game one.
It's gonna be prime time stuff too.
Yeah, that should be an interesting one right off the back. Obviously, a lot of people think the Knicks made those moves to match up with Boston, so to see what those teams look like right off the bat would be a lot of fun. And I think they run into each other again on Christmas Day. So uh, we thought the matchup was going to be good already, but with the moves that were made during the offseason, the matchup got a little more interesting. So we'll see if Porzingis is available to play, but it should be a fun one up there in Boston. It's ring night. Boston will be getting their rings. Knicks might have a
Putting the
little
banner
extra
up.
motivation. Putting the banner up. Knicks might have a little extra motivation.
Yeah, like you said, this team was, from what we can tell, constructed specifically to take down the Boston Celtics. Reminds us a lot of what Houston did, post when KD went over to the Golden State and they went and got Chris Paul in Houston. It's kind of the moves they made is like, all right, now that the shooting is there. They're tailor-made to take on the Houston Rockets. Now, I don't think that the Knicks are gonna go the same route as the Houston Rockets. I think the Knicks are a little better coached than that. We had that discussion too last show. And again, throw your thoughts in if you guys can. The chat is open. We'll go ahead and answer your questions when we can. I'm gonna give you guys the Chuck guarantee. I think the Knicks are going to spoil Boston's ring night on Tuesday.
I could see it, man. Obviously, sometimes that championship hangover is real. That first night, a lot of excitement. We may come out a little too strong, and I think the Knicks will come out motivated. Seeing other teams get their ring and being there on ring night, obviously that's something they want. So I could see it.
They look, I'm really high on having the two wings on each side to defend Brown and Tatum. And if you can kind of take those guys out of the game, which it's obvious every time you play them, your coach is gonna say we want to make everybody beat us but them. So Porzingis, solid player. You mentioned we don't know for sure if he's gonna be playing, and if he does, you got to already question his health, which has been a theme of his whole career. I expect it, man. I think that they're gonna go off. Mikhail has a new shot. Looks weird, but it seems to be working for him. You've got the 3-and-D. What Cat brings to that team, Meach is already in here. We're gonna get to that question in a second, but he mentioned that Deuce McBride is already getting shots off. So the other thing that we kind of touched on, but didn't really get to touch on, like we talked about this trade for the Knicks hindering a lot of depth, and it's just not true. Like Kolek, their rookie point guard looks amazing right now. You brought in, remind me, what's my guy's name that used to be Russ's dance partner?
Yeah.
Campaign. They remember they signed T.J. Warren right after the Cat deal. So they got Landry Shamet over there. Like they're not devoid of talent. They're going to be a solid team. I just think defense is going to get the better of them. I think the Celtics are coming off on a high. I think Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns are going to make a statement. That's what I think. And let's go ahead and touch on this first question from our guy Meach, Mighty Fresh. Should this be an MVP level year for Brunson? Now, Brunson, really every year that he's been in the league, he's gotten better, but we've seen it to a heightened level since he's become a Knick. Look, man, he's got the talent. He's now known. He's like the king of New York now for the contract that he decided to take, leaving all of that money on the table to make sure that they have a solid team for a championship run. We know what he is. We know what he can do. And now he's got one of the best running mates that you could have in the league. This is a top five duo to me. Not this is an MVP type year for Jalen Brunson. I think Jalen Brunson is going to finish top five in MVP voting. Matter of fact, I think his teammate Karl Anthony Towns might join him.
I think for me it'd be kind of tough for him to win MVP. I think they would have to be the one seed in the East, and I think he would have to have an amazing year. I think there's some favorites above him. I think Shea coming back. A lot of people think he should have won it last year. I think Shea's the easy favorite. I think at this point Jokic is going to be there every year. So I think he would have to have like the Knicks would have to be a one seed, and he would have to be playing out of his mind for the whole season for him to kind of get it. But like to your point, I think he'll be in the top five or so in the conversation.
The Knicks to me, just like this team, the offense screams explosive. I was talking to, well, we'll have him on as a guest soon. My guy Dante from the Dante Show, who's another one of our resident Knicks fans, who mentioned, I don't agree with this because I do think there will be a downfall with the Knicks, which when we had Stat on, he mentioned this as well. But these guys can just do it themselves, right? You're not going to need Tibbs to interject too much in what they're doing on offense. Now, defense, they're going to be one of the best defensive teams in the league. That's in and out when you got a Tibbs coach team. The adjustments we can talk about all day, but we know what each of these guys is as a player. Now, they finished with a top two seed a year ago. And to me, that's doable again. This Knicks team is better than the team that they had last year. I'm expecting big things from the Knicks.
Yeah. I think sometimes things are based on circumstances. So they were a 2 seed last year. I I not that they're going to be worse this year, but I can see them like not being a 2 seed this year, if that makes sense, but with a better team, just based on kind of how. I mean, Philly would have been like a top 2 seed if Embiid doesn't get hurt sometime throughout that season. So like things are kind of based on circumstances sometimes. Not saying the Knicks didn't deserve the 2 seed because they really went and got it. Uh, but sometimes you could be a better team, but maybe end up as a lower seed.
It's true, but usually when that happens, it goes to like the point that you're making, like Philly losing their star player for almost half the season hurt you big time when you got to ask Tyrese Maxey to take on a role that he's never taken on before. But it's doable. He's that good of a player, but we know that it's going to hinder you at the same time. We don't have guys on outside of OG on this Knicks team. And even if you lose OG, then you still got everybody else on there that'll hold it down while he's out. So you don't have like the injury histories where you could
Uh,
say, man, they might lose this guy. And if they lose this guy, then that's going to hinder where they finish at in the season.
Yeah, I think it's more so like you're not going to sneak up on many teams this year. Many teams, when you come in there, you're going to be getting their best punch every night. Teams are going to be geared up to play against you, and you're the Knicks fans. Your fans are coming out to every game, every arena, and then they're not as maybe deep at the center position with Mitch being out for a little while. So I just think that they're not that they snuck up on a lot of people last year, but I think you're going to be getting people's best punch every night just because you are the Knicks and you did end as the 2 seed. And then injuries could happen here or there, and then just situations like that.
Speaking of not sneaking up, you know what this Knicks situation kind of reminds me of? I'm not saying it's the same. Remember before Brooklyn got KD and Kyrie, they had this really solid nucleus together. They make the playoffs and they were just this fun team to watch. Last year, the Knicks had this cool nucleus, the Nova guys together, fun team to watch, came in and surprised people. A lot similar to Brooklyn, right? And then Brooklyn goes and reshapes the whole team to bring in K or most of the team to bring in KD and Kyrie. Knicks kind of reshaped this team a little bit. Dante was a big piece of what they were doing. Julius Randle kind of set the tone for what this new era of Knicks basketball is. They're both gone now. Jalen Brunson is the lead man here with a bunch of solid, great pieces. Do we think that this could be similar to a Brooklyn situation and maybe you should have just kept the team that you had together? Because this is the thing that a lot of Knicks fans were talking about once the trade happened.
I don't think so. I think the Nets situation was slightly a little different because this Knicks team last year was probably better than that Nets team probably ever was because they were getting low 7, 8 seeds. Knicks getting a 2 seed. They're a lot better than that team was, and I think you didn't really blow up too much of this roster in a way because like Randall missed the second half of the season when they went on that run, so he kind of wasn't really a part of it. And then you lose DiVincenzo, but like I think he's kind of like the really only piece you lost. So I think this team is still more intact than kind of that Brooklyn team was. They kind of they kept that the Brooklyn team was still together when you brought in KD Kyrie, but you kind of got rid of a lot of those guys a few weeks in when you traded for James Harden. So I think this is a lot different than that because they traded 3, 4 key pieces as soon as you went to go get James Harden. The Knicks kind of only traded Randall, and he wasn't really a part of what happened last year.
True, true indeed. One last question. Shout out to Meech. Meech is live in the chat right now. If you ain't live in the chat, make sure you do it. Who do the Knicks need to step up from the bench or role players this season? I'm gonna go with Deuce McBride, man. I would love to see a jump from him this year. I think he's capable of it, comes from a good pedigree, and he's already been showing the Knicks fan base some good things since he was drafted there, right? They elected to keep him over other young guys that they were developing and moved on from. if he's not your sixth man, he's your second guy coming off the bench. So, he's a homegrown Nick, and he's a guy that I think is capable. So I'm gonna go with Deuce McBride to show some. And Meech, you said it yourself. The shot looks like it's falling right now. It's preseason, but it looks good so far.
I think everyone's gonna say Deuce McBride. I'm gonna go with someone like Precious Achua. I think with Harkenstein leaving and Mitch being out for a little bit, he helps them kind of play that small ball lineup in some cases where you can go small and kind of stay big a little bit because he's a little strong. So I'm gonna say him. I think you need someone to step up at that center slash power forward position and give you different looks. Obviously, you know what Cat's gonna give you, but someone like him who can, when Cat's out, you probably get him in there. He can run up and down. He's more of a rim runner. Uh, can play some defense, kind of strong in the paint, can hold his own. So I think he can come in off the bench with energy and kind of help you when you're kind of thin on that front line.
For sure. Now, another thing that we touched on with Stat as a Knicks fan, and this is gonna be a question we pose to you guys all year. Who is the team? We know Boston's there, right? But who is the team that worries you the most in the East? Now, for me, the logical answer for the Knicks was going to be Philly, right? You've got the border wars, territorial, historical rivalry going on there. And then, by the way, they just brought in Paul George to go with Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, brought Caleb Martin over there. Nice draft, couple other pieces. When we looked at that, the first thing that we said when the deal was made, that it's a solid team. It's a team that could definitely win a championship, but their two most talented stars, arguably their two most talented stars, Embiid and Paul George, have an extensive injury history. Injury history for Paul George is what killed, well, along with Kawhi Leonard, is what killed the Clippers' title hopes. Philly has had a window that I think is still open with Embiid, who to me is the best big man in the league when he's on the floor. You know, he brings you so much, but every year you hear about another injury. So in Philly, you had in the game Paul George hyperextend his knee. He's questionable for opening night. Joel Embiid comes out and says that he's probably not going to play a back-to-back ever again in his career. If you're a Sixers fan, that's startling. Is it too early? And this is in the preseason now. Is it too early to hit the panic button in Philadelphia?
Yeah, yes, because it is preseason. Paul George hyperextended his knee, but that's something he'll definitely be back from, and not too complication. It's just painful, and then you have to kind of wait for it to kind of go away. Maybe he missed the beginning of the season, but that is kind of what it is. I think this is why you signed Paul George. He kind of relieves some pressure off of everything falling on the maxi when Embiid is out. I think you have three stars, so if one of them misses, you have two. So I think as long as you can have two out of three stars, I wouldn't panic too much. Obviously, being a new team, where I do see some concerns is that you got to build that chemistry and be on the court together and get all that type of stuff to maybe win in this league. So that's going to be an issue. But as far as like making it through I think they'll make it through the regular season better than what they did last year. When Embiid went down last year, it was just Maxey trying to figure everything out himself. He has a year of that to grow on that and work on that. Now, plus he will have at least one of the other two with him to relieve some pressure off him too. So he should be better than he was last year handling those situations. Now seeing it and been through it. And then he also should have one of the two there to help him. So I think that will make them better than they were last year. I think there's a slight panic just to make sure everyone's healthy and you can get on the floor and build that chemistry.
The Embiid line is what's really startling to me, though, because hyperextension, like you're like, oh, it's Paul George. So when you see that, you're like, man, another injury. The Embiid one is the scary one. To hear him say that he's probably not gonna play back-to-back games ever in his career again, like it for you to not to be certain that that's not going to happen anymore, it seems like something serious is up, or it's serious enough where you have to throw that precaution in there.
Yeah, I think that is obviously concerning, but I think you just the way his career and injuries have worked out. Uh, you kind of like seen it coming. Even if he was gonna play in back-to-backs, he wasn't probably gonna play in a lot of them. So like him coming out and saying I'll probably never play in some again is like it's startling because when you hear like never again, like you kind of still have a long career left, which you mean you're never gonna play in a back-to-back again. But if you look at it, even if he was gonna play in back-to-backs again, it probably have wouldn't have been a lot of them with just the way that the NBA goes nowadays with load management and things like that. He probably wasn't playing in a lot of them in the rest of his career anyway. So he kind of just got it on the table and said, "Hey, don't expect me."
I forgot to mention this, man. They got a guy Lester Quinones over there. He's a Philly guy now.
Yeah, shout out to him. I wonder if he's enjoying Philly. I'm sure he grabbed him a Philly cheesesteak or something. Let's
Don't
see
go to
how that.
Pats. If you watching less, don't go to Pats. It's commercial.
Let's see how it goes for him. Obviously, going to a new team, a new situation, you kind of got to earn your keep again. There's a lot of guards and stuff in front of him. Kyle Lowry's still on that bench. Jared McCain seems like he's been having a good time since they've drafted him summer
Not to
league.
cut you off. I heard a rumor that not a rumor. I think Nick Nurse said there's a possibility he could be playing in the G League, which was a
Uh,
little surprising to me. Consider that's your first round pick.
yeah and no because like, ah, yeah and no. Like you kind of expected he'll play some time in the G League, not because maybe he said that too premature too. Because I feel like I've heard a lot of good things about him coming out of camp, but like it's just you have Kyle Lowry, you have Eric Gordon. It would have been real tough just looking at it on paper for him to kind of beat those guys out. Obviously, they're older. Maybe they're not gonna play every game. They're gonna rest, and obviously Maxi's still in front of him. Kelly Oubre starting. So you just look at that guard depth. It's kind of like we, not that he's not good enough. We kind of just don't have the time for him. We're kind of in a win now mode. And when you're in a win now mode, you're kind of not playing those young guys. Kyle Lowry's always going to get those minutes over him. So it's kind of tough. But throughout a long season, I think there's times where he will get in. Kyle Lowry will either rest or maybe an injury or something happens between him and Eric Gordon. But again, it seems like spot minutes. So you would just say off the top of your head that we will keep him, we will probably send him to the G League a lot to keep him ready because there's probably going to be a time throughout the season when we know we're going to need him.
For sure, for sure. I think that the Lester Quinones signing to me is an underrated one. Watching Nick Nurse and his time in Toronto, like, Masai Ujiri's drafted well in Toronto, and then Nick Nurse comes in there. He start. It's a lot like what the Heat do, which we're about to get into as well. And just being able to get the best out of what you got, right? Like Maxi really took a turn after he got under Nick Nurse. The guys that we saw in Toronto really in that championship run were some guys that you liked, but when you go in and you see Pascal Siakam as a legitimate number two, that's not something you expect. And I think the talent's there with Les. I think that's something for whatever reason the Warriors, they got good production from him when they used them, but they didn't really go to him as much as some fans may have liked. That's kind of something I'm expecting to see from the Sixers with him, should he, make it onto that roster.
Yeah, kind of the same thing I was saying with Jared McCain. They're kind of in a win now mode, and there's a lot of veteran guards ahead of them. So I think they're gonna use their G League team a lot for those young guys and try to get them in spot minutes because they do have a veteran team, and you when you have that veteran team, you expect some of them old guys to not play every game, not play every night. So and then obviously being older, maybe a little injuries. So you have those guys for those moments. There's going to be a game 42 against Detroit, maybe where those old guys just might not play. It might not, or maybe an injury or something happened. So you need those young guys. You need them fresh, and I think that's where they are add value. So I think he's kind of in the same boat with Jared McCain. They're just on a veteran team that's trying to win now, and those young guys are going to add value just because it's a long season.
Let's go ahead and move down south, man, to your neck of the woods, 305. You got the Miami Heat. They're actually playing a preseason game right now. Starting lineup looks like Terry Rozier, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, Nikola Jovic right now, and our guy Tyler Hero.
Yeah, that looks like kind of what they've been rolling out there. I think if you looked at their roster from last year, Jovic ended the season starting at the four, so you kind of figured you'll roll that lineup back out there. I think if they're healthy last year, that kind of what their lineup would have been, and kind of what they did roll out there, and seems like that's might what they will be going with.
Right on. The Heat have a lot of question marks coming into this season after, years of just making it to the Eastern Conference Finals as underdogs, making it to the NBA Finals a couple times. It's now unquestionable that they got the best coach in the league. The only one you can really argue with is Popovich. But a guy who just gets the best out of them. And injuries really killed them last year with, Jimmy dealing with his personal stuff and losing Terry Rozier for the end of the year. You don't got either of those guys in the postseason matchup with the Celtics, which just completely made that one a crapshoot. I'm a little surprised that I'm not seeing more Hawkes. I do believe he's dealing with a little bit of an injury right now. And then what are some things that you're hearing about Ware? I seen Larson looks really good, but Ware I don't believe is even the he's not one of the top two guys coming off the bench right now.
I'll be honest with you, I didn't watch much of their preseason. I'm not sure uh, kind of what's going on and what their rotations have been 100%. I know Brian Windhorst had came out and said that he liked the way Kevin Ware looked. Khalil, his name's Khalil. Khalil Ware had looked against the Charlotte Hornets. I think I've seen a couple alleys and dunks that he got. He looks young, athletic. I think he hit a three, so he's stretching the floor. Uh, Not sure exactly kind of what the rotation is looking like there, but I think again a young guy, athletic, brings energy, can stretch the floor, which is a plus. So I think as long as he keeps at it and obviously being in a good system like the Heat, again it's a long season. They have more veteran guys like Kevin Love and those type of guys, and you can find spot minutes in there just because it's a long season.
To add on with that, as somebody who watches the Heat extensively over the last couple of years, something that I've noticed with Spo when it's always next man up mentality wherever you're at. But with Spo, when it is next man mentality, I seen it. Um, Kendrick Nunn was, a rookie of the year candidate. His first year, he was lighting it up, and then he deals with an injury. Next guy up comes in, they're doing their thing. All of a sudden, you don't see as much Kendrick Nunn. These guys are gonna have an opportunity whenever they're called upon to just take it and run with it. So if one of these centers that might be in front of like Thomas Bryant, who might be in front of Khalil Ware, has to sit down for a bit, and Ware comes in and he runs with that opportunity, Khalil Ware becomes your sixth or seventh man off the bench, right? So I do think that that's there. The other thing to check out with is Rozier. And I want to give you a shout out because you last season were giving him a lot more praise than I think a lot of people were. You know, like I was kind of down on them a bit with him out. Your whole thing was, he is a big difference maker as their point guard. He now has a full off season with the Heat. He's going to be in the starting lineup, it looks like, with Hero. That's going to be something to monitor. I think that the Heat, obviously, everybody knows they're going to be a scary matchup, but with like the questions that they have coming into the season, it's been a long time since they've had this many questions about what kind of team they are. The guys like that are going to be like the anomalies that you look at and like just say, wow, wasn't expecting that or whatever. And me to answer Meech's question, is Bam taking over the Heat? Yes, I do. I do think that Bam is taking over the Heat. He got the contract extension, well deserved. The Olympic play, I believe, is going to pay dividends because you usually when you see these guys come back from the Olympics and go into the season, they add an element to their game. That his 3-point shooting looks very good so far. Again, it is preseason, but it's definitely something to check out. So The Heat is the dark horse team to me this year. I think that's the thing that people need to watch out for. Just like, oh man, are the Heat back? Here come the Heat again.
Yeah, I think like you said, those the thing about Terry is that there's not he's like their best. I don't know if there's like a backup point guard on the roster. He's kind of like their point guard. So he gets a lot of things together for them, and also he can score the ball, and he just he gives them something maybe they haven't had in a while. Kind of just a real creative scorer on offense, where it's not just a lot of Jimmy and hero type of thing. So and also he is a ball handler. He's a point guard. He's kind of played point guard all his life. So yeah, I think obviously there's been a lot of question about the Heat just because they're bringing back the same roster. But continuity is something we didn't really get to see them 100% healthy last year. So being able to bring back the same roster with a couple guys who seem motivated, Jimmy seems motivated. Obviously, maybe a contract year for him. So uh, uh, they've been together, and I think that's the biggest thing. They didn't make too many big offseason moves, but you would say maybe Terry was their offseason move, even though it was during the season. He gets the full season to kind of roll with them, and the team is healthy, and they're gonna go for it.
They're gonna have like the typical Heat season to me, as far as like, man, look where they just got this guy from. Like Josh Christopher was a a high draft pick for the Rockets a couple years ago. Out of the league, you all of a sudden see him on the Heat summer league team, and he wins summer league MVP, summer league finals MVP. So you got guys like that. Pelly Larson, like I said, looks really good. We'll see what we get out of Ware. There's just so many guys that you look at that Spo, and you know what Spo can do with these guys. Like even to go back to Terry, if Terry looks like how he did when he was in Boston, when they went on that run to the conference finals, when they were all young, that first year with Kyrie when he was out for the season, which I think Spo is capable of getting out of him. That automatically makes them a championship threat again.
Yeah, we'll see. Obviously, they've been knocking on the door the last few years, and Jimmy's health and putting themselves maybe in tough positions by being in the play-in and the eighth seed and things like that. So everyone's healthy to start the season, and I think they're kind of motivated maybe not to be in the play-in again. So we'll see how it goes for them.
For sure, man. Um, in a move that I didn't agree with this summer, the Cavs fired JB Bickerstaff. The Pistons, they let go of Monty Williams and immediately bring in Bickerstaff to be their new head coach, which, it just wasn't working out with Monty. And I think that this team is more or better set for JB Bickerstaff based on what we've seen him work with and do in Cleveland. If you guys are as old as I am, you can remember way back in the day when David Stearns, may he rest in peace, was the commissioner of the NBA. You couldn't walk around dressing how you wanted to after a certain point. He started implementing suits and things like that. Well, JB Bickerstaff has implemented a new rule for the Detroit Pistons. No hoodies up when you are coming into the games, when you're getting interviewed, all that good stuff. It immediately made me go back to David Stearns and the way that he ran things as the NBA commissioner. Do we like this? And is JB channeling his inner David Stearns with this new rule for the Detroit Pistons?
I like it for the fact that this team didn't play well last year. Uh, and you're coming in and you have young guys who probably, when it becomes contagious, and so does losing. So like you want to come in and kind of set the culture. So if that's, hey, take your hoodie off, even if it's something like small like that, but you're setting certain standards and certain habits. So I kind of like it to that point. You kind of got to get these young guys out of maybe their old bad habits of just being young and having money, and we've seen what that's done to other players and other teams. So you kind of just want to get them with some discipline and some habits, even if it seems stupid. It's just something to kind of set the tone, and I think that's kind of what he's doing. He's trying to set the tone, to let these guys, young guys, know that this is different. This is a different time. We're going to be taking things serious. And whether this is like his small way of setting it right now for a bigger purpose, I kind of like it because obviously they didn't win much last year. I can't say I watched them much last year, but I don't know like what their culture is there and kind of what they're used to. But he's coming in and let them know that this is not a game. I'm serious and I'm setting the tone now. And it seems maybe stupid on the surface, but like it's more about the point. Like, hey, this is a new day.
Yeah, I think he's coming in and trying to have a similar effect to what's going on in Houston right now when Ime came in and took over. It's like, all you guys are young and you're coming in a little big headed because of what you did when you were in college or, overseas or, whatever. And the fact that you come in as high draft picks, but nobody here has actually accomplished anything. So we need to come in and set a culture. And they got a guy in Cade. I think highly of Cade. I think highly of Jalen Ivy. Even it hasn't been great so far for him, but coaching matters in this league. So I'm expecting a big turnaround for them. I don't think they're going to be a postseason team, but they should be a team with like the young talent that they have. And this coach, who we know is proven, at least when it comes to working with young teams, because it was an amazing job he did with Cleveland. And they should be a team that can at least challenge for a play-in.
Yeah, I mean the talent's there. Obviously, I don't think they were really as bad as they were last year. I think the ball just got rolling and they couldn't kind of figure it out. Like you said, they have talent. Ivy, Cade Cunningham, Durant, those guys. So there's talent there. I'm playing. I don't know, but maybe. I think they'll be a lot better than they were. I don't think they're that bad. So I think with the changes being made, I think they will come in and be better and put up a better fight. I wouldn't even put playing out the picture. Obviously, that's 10 teams, and I think they'll be 10. They could be 10, 9. They could be in the fight. But even if they don't get in, I think even being in the fight for it is progress, and they're gonna probably take this year at a time and try to get better as they go.
It's definitely gonna be an exciting thing to watch, man. Can't wait. NBA's back, man. It's been a long wait. So many storylines coming in, just letting you know that this league still rules as king when all the leagues are coming in with their seasons and we still talking NBA. So it's gonna be a fun one. Glad to be back. Before we get into our last topic, just a couple other questions we want to tackle here. Speaking of the Bucks, do they lose a threat to the league? Basically, are they not a threat anymore in the league? Middleton's dealing with his knee issues right now. I'm not gonna say that they're like not a threat anymore. I wouldn't pick them to make a run here, but you do have Dame in now. Dame got traded like during the preseason last year. Now he gets like a whole off season in the camp. So he's still there. There's still like some pieces. They made some decent moves. They'll be a playoff team. I expect them to be a top four seed in the league as long as they stay healthy for the most part. I mean, Meech, your guy Doc Rivers is still the head coach over there, so he can kind of get results for you in the regular season. So as far as that goes, I think that they should still be up there. Like we'll be talking about them, but I don't know, man. Hiring Doc Rivers to me wasn't like the smartest move. You had a better season before you made the coaching change than you did once you made the coaching change. But Dame's there, Giannis is still there. Like we'll talk about them, but I'm not expecting anything big from them.
Uh, I think they're a threat. I think when you have Giannis and you have Dame, I think you'll be a threat because those guys could, if they get on and roll together and get that chemistry, at any point they could be a threat. So I think just with having those two, I think once they figure it out, obviously having a full off season together now, uh, it gives them more time. I think they're a threat just for the fact they have those two guys. Giannis can go get you 51 game and get you a win. Dame can get you 51 game and get you a win, and after that, the anything can happen. The ball can get rolling. So I think they're a threat just for those two guys off the top. And then
My
Middleton,
thing,
if he can get healthy, then that just adds another mix into it.
so that's my thing. When we talk about them being a threat, I got to look at who I'm comparing them to. Like we got a loaded Knicks team in the East. We got a loaded Celtics team coming off a title in the East. We've got a Heat team that to me
But
is gonna be scary because of all the questions that you
I
don't
think
have answers to right now.
I
The
think
Pacers is still there.
if I'm the Bucks, the only team I'm really worried about is the Heat, and they just seem to have their number. But everyone else, I think if Giannis and Dame get going, I have the utmost confidence that we can go in somewhere and get us a dub. So uh, while those teams are like up there and they're great teams, I still think that that 1-2 punch is still will be a lot for teams. And in a playoff series, it's a lot to kind of figure out. So I give them a chance for sure.
Yeah, I like I can give them a chance. I would feel better about them if I didn't think Middleton was heading towards the end of his career. Like that
Hey,
to not have the scoring that you get from Middleton against teams like the Celt, even with Dame and Giannis still there, but to not have that when you go against these teams in a 7 game series, it's just you're going to be coming in as an underdog every time, and it's hard for me to, especially when Doc. That's the other thing too we haven't talked about. Your head coach is Doc Rivers, and his lead assistant is Darvin Ham.
I think yeah, I see that because like you've seen the firepower he had in that Pacers series, uh hitting big shots and stuff before they ultimately lost and I think did he end up getting injured? Did he finish that series? I think he got injured, right?
You talking about Giannis?
No, Milton.
Yeah, he got hurt in that series.
Yeah, but
He
before
was
he
hitting
got
some big shots. He was
yeah,
hitting some, but he couldn't close out the series.
and
He got them wins himself.
yeah, so you missed that because you missed that wing scoring and you seen his shot making ability then. So, but I still think with those two, you have to kind of figure it out on the wing. But I think with those two, you'll be good.
I think Darvin Ham will be the next head coach of the Milwaukee Bucks. Either sometime this season. Nah, they won't do that again. But maybe at the end of this season, maybe we'll finally get the end of Doc Rivers' coaching career.
We'll see. We will see.
Last thing before we get out of here with you guys, the prospect of a Subway series, and I don't know if y'all can see, I got the hat on right here from the last time we had one. Hasn't happened in 24 years. I was in first grade the last time the Yankees and the Mets played a Subway Series, as these how World Series goes, right? We were talking about Mike Piazza back then, Derek Jeter, the core four. Pat Mahomes was on the Mets back then, Pat Mahomes Sr. And man, right now we've got the Mets playing against the Los Angeles Dodgers in
Pat
the
Mahomes seniors,
Pat
like
Mahomes Sr. was a yes, his father was a pitcher, a starting pitcher
Patrick
for the
Mahomes'
Mets.
father.
Patrick Mahomes' father was a starting pitcher for the Mets in the last time in when they went to the World Series in 2000.
That's news to me, G.
Yeah, man. Pat, that's why they always talk about him like, oh, like he was into baseball. He was supposed to be a baseball player. Like I seen the talking point with him and A-Rod. Forgot what I think it was on Fox. They had a thing with him and A-Rod and they were talking about it. But yeah, it's been about 24 years since we had the prospect of this. And this Mets team, we talk about a Mets team whose season looked like it was down under in the dirt. They were not good for the first half of the year. And I don't know, is it the Mark Vientos? If any Mets are in here, any Mets fans in here, please correct me. It was Mark Vientos who has the song that they've been playing. They've channeled the energy of Grimace from McDonald's, and they've just turned things around. And what I've noticed about the Mets, number one, you've got a true superstar in Francisco Lindor, which you really always had, but now he's turning it up now. And if it wasn't for Shohei Ohtani, he'd be the NL MVP, leading the way. They finally they got they've got an owner who's inept. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it, and got a lot of money, which reminds you of George Steinbrenner who owned the Yankees back in the day. And then, Stearns running baseball operations, who's done a solid job putting that farm system together. Ronald Acuna's younger brother is on the Mets, and he got brought up towards the end of the year with Lindor out because of an injury, and he's showed enough that they put him on the postseason roster. I mean, it's 1-1 against a Dodgers team that coming in was supposed to be the odds-on favorite. Like, last time we talked about baseball, I said it's been a weird year. There's not any big favorites, but it's a 1-1 series right now. The Mets are playing right now in. So you've got that. And then on the other side of things, moving from Queens over to the Bronx, the Yankees, who made a huge swing trading for Juan Soto. And I mean, they came out hot beginning of the year. They looked like an amazing team that just couldn't be stopped. Then all of a sudden, nobody was hitting outside of Judge and Soto. So it looked like a Shohei Ohtani, Mike Trout situation with the Angels, where we're just going to walk these two guys because nobody else can hit, to everybody kind of getting things rolling again. And the Yankees, they're up 2-0 in the ALCS over the Cleveland Guardians. I expect the Yankees to move on in that AL series to get to their first World Series since 2009. If y'all can't tell, I am giddy about that. And the Mets are going to make this thing something. Now, full disclosure, as a baseball fan and you somebody who just likes historical matchups, like a lot of us like it with the NBA. If there's a chance for us to watch Lakers Celtics, taking your fanship out of it, just as a guy who loves the NBA, or as a person who loves the NBA, and you go into the conference finals seeing the Lakers got a shot and the Celtics got a shot, most of us are going to want to see the Lakers versus Celtics in the NBA finals. That's kind of what we have here. Dodgers Yankees. That's always been my dream matchup. Now, I would not be mad if the Mets made it back. And boy, right now, New York is cooking. The Jets made a ton of moves, and we're still talking about them possibly being in contention. The Knicks right now are on fire. And then both of your baseball teams are in their league championship for the right to make the World Series. If the Mets and the Yankees end up meeting each other in the World Series, man, New York is going to be insane. I might have to fly back up. Might have to fly back up. New York is going to be insane if those two teams make it.
Yeah, I think obviously for New York and obviously the memes that might come out of it and the New York what do I want to call it, madness that will happen if those two teams match up will be exciting to see. I'm kind of with you. I think the Yankees will come out on top against Cleveland. I think the Mets have the tougher matchup right now. I know they have the series tied, and the Mets are rolling. Obviously, Philly was a great team during the regular season, and they were able to upset them. So the Mets are rolling. They're kind of on a high, so we can see if they can upset the Dodgers, but. Uh, I think they have the tougher matchup, which I'd still think it'd be like an upset if they come out and like beat the Dodgers, even though the series is tied 1-1. I believe they're playing right now. So I kind of expect the Yankees to get there. I'll see if the Mets can keep riding this magical run. Sometimes you got to get hot at the right time, and they seem to have gotten hot at the right time. Shout out to Francisco Lenore. That's how you say his name.
Mm-hmm.
I met him last year when I was with the Magic. They shot some content together. So
Oh,
shout
nice.
out to shout out to him. I met him one time, cool dude. So I think it's gonna be tough for them to win that matchup. But like I said, sometimes when you're hot, and I can see them pulling it off.
Yeah, it's like when you went into game one and they got embarrassed the way that they did in game one, you looked at it and said, well, maybe their magical run's coming to an end. The Dodgers are just too much. But then they come back and show what they've showed throughout this postseason and throughout the end of the regular season, which is this team has a ton of fight in them. You can't count them out. Whether it's Pete Alonso hitting a go-ahead home run to put them back up, or Francisco Lindor hitting a grand slam, like there's something to watch out there. So Mets fan, it's been a long time since Mets fans had a team that they can feel like they'll be able to feel good about for the foreseeable future. They've had teams where it's like, all right, we were able to do something, but how long when they were under the Will Ponds. But it's a different story now. And I think they're gonna make it respectable because of that in that series. I don't think they're gonna get rolled over. Just that team just looks like they have a ton of fight to me. I'm still gonna pick the Dodgers though. If, anybody wants to come in and say what they say about the prospect of a Subway series, just go ahead and let us know. But it's an exciting time to be a New York sports fan right now.
Yeah, and shout out, well, since we're on, well, shout out the Rangers too. They were in the conference finals last year, so obviously it's a new season for them. So we'll see what they can do this year. But shout out to the Rangers too, because they were almost in the Stanley Cup final.
Rangers and I think the Islanders like were a postseason team last year. New York, New
Yeah,
York's on fire, man. The Giants got to get their stuff together and catch up.
I
And
think
the
the
Nets, the
Islanders,
net.
the Nets, Jesus. We'll see what they'll do with Ben Simmons. I think it's a contract year for him. So
I don't like what I'm seeing from Ben right now. He was talking a big game and like the opening, like the media opening media day and stuff. But I don't know, man. Passing ability still looks like it's there, but he looks really timid as
uh,
far as trying to score goes.
yeah, I mean, obviously, it's a different league from what he left from. He wasn't really a shooter then. And also, it takes time to get that rhythm back. He's really kind of missed 2, 3 years now, so trying to get that rhythm back. So, if I'm the Nets, I just hope that he has a great contract year and someone takes a chance on him at the deadline, and
I
I collect my
disagree. Well,
picks.
I think that they're gonna hope that somebody will take a chance, but I don't think the Nets are hoping that like he comes out firing and like they're like a playoff threat. I think that they
No,
want a
no,
shot at the
no.
number one pick.
They want him to play well so they can get rid of him. I think play well
Yeah.
so someone will bite on this deal, and you're gone at the deadline. I think that would be the ideal plan
Net
for them.
net
If not, then we ride this ship to the bottom, and you probably leave in free agency anyway.
Yeah, they're hoping that they can end up with the number one pick. Even if they don't end up with the number one pick, this is a pretty strong draft this year. So if they can end up with like a top three, top four pick, they'll be looking pretty good, especially since this is the first time that they've had control of their draft picks in God knows how long.
Yeah, they're in rebuild mode, so that's what I said.
First time they can do it.
He's probably gone at the deadline. So
Do you think there's a possibility that well, he's making a lot of money.
there's a possibility what they resign him.
No, like that if you want to like just cut ties with him at some point, maybe buy him out.
Uh,
He's getting
I
paid a lot of money.
I think his contract is he's on expiring contract, and yes, you can do that because it's just like anyone on a like expiring contract. You can waive them and extend the contract because it's an expiring. It's not a multi-year contract. Yeah, that is an option, but because he's the talent is there, you just think he's been hurt. You kind of don't want to do that. You want to try to get something for him, so you kind of want to give him a chance to showcase his skills and then give him to somebody else. And I guess if not, you just kind of ride the season out with him.
Talent's there, but he's just gone through so like the last 3 years of his career have been so bizarre. And it's just like, has that just like ruined him? Like that's like when we were talking about Lonzo last show, I mentioned that I felt like his dad, he was everything his dad advertised him to be. But the injury was just so devastating that I don't know if he can come back from it. That I feel like that could be like a thing with Ben. Like Ben might be playing for his NBA career this season.
He's
Not might, I
definitely
think he is.
he's definitely playing for his NBA contract because he is a veteran minimum player, maybe after this season. No one's gonna give him any type of huge money, so he's like $1 million player, kind of earn your way the rest of the way for now, type of player. So he's playing for his money, for sure. Uh, Part of that is maybe playing for your career, but someone will take a chance on him, maybe at $1 or $2 million if they can, because at worst you cut him and you're fine. So
Lakers,
uh,
that relationship
uh,
with LeBron.
See, a team like that is a good example. A team like that who feels like the Suns. They feel like they have the core pieces. We just need you to come in here and just fill a role. And if we take a chance on you, it doesn't work, we can get rid of you and then we're fine. But no one's going to give him no big money.
I wouldn't be
And
mad if the Suns brought him in because I think he could still play point guard. But as far as, being like a difference maker with, the scoring and cutting and things that he was able to do in Philadelphia, it seems like that's over.
like the Warriors, they feel like you can get them in there with those veteran guys. So it seems like that will take the chance on him. And but they won't give him too much money for sure.
Shout out to the Nets. I think that they got some really nice young pieces coming into the season, but it's tankathon in Brooklyn.
For good reasons. There is a 6'9" guy in Duke that people think is going to be great.
Yeah, yeah. And like I said, even if that's the goal. Like you want that to happen. But even if they can't get him, like Ron Harper's son, and then Rutgers has two guys that could arguably go second and third in this draft. Even if you make out with one of those guys, like it's a successful tanking year for you.
Yeah, and you see what you have on your roster, and then move forward accordingly.
Yeah, 100%, man. We'll definitely find out as the season goes on. But NBA basketball's back starting next week. Knicks fans should be excited about that one. Mets and Yankees fans, both of your teams are a series win away from going to the World Series. How awesome is that? And if you're a Jets fan, you even got something to be excited about. If you're a Giants fan, you hope you can at least get a win against Philly. You know. We'll see what happens there. Okay, you got anything else for us before we get out of here?
No, that's it. Next week should be fun. We'll have an update on those series and see who's in the World Series, and then the NBA season should be starting. So should be some exciting stuff next week.
For sure, for sure. Thank you guys for tuning into to us, man. It's going to be an exciting week of football, exciting week of preseason basketball, exciting week of baseball, exciting week of sports, man. So for that, it is Rich, it's Kayson. We appreciate y'all, and we will see you guys next time. Peace.